Hi, this is DJ Slope from Slope's Game Room, and today we're going to be looking at Disney's 20th animated classic, which is the Aristocats. Meet the cats who know where it's at. First release on December 11th, 1970. Don't you just love it when a movie starts and you know it's going to be good? Well, after pressing play on your DVD or your Blu-ray player, getting past all those crappy trailers that are all now obviously out of date unless you bought it on day of release, which I always do, you got that amazing upbeat stereotypical French style music to really bring you into the film. You got that classic almost line drawing style similar to films like 101 Dalmatians, which technically is actually better than this one. But for me, as a kid, I didn't actually own the Aristocats. It was only until that collection ended up getting passed down to my sisters that we started filling in the gaps. And films like the Aristocats, Black Cauldron sort of got added on a bit too late when I wasn't really as into Disney as I used to be. Or as I am now. Because when I became an adult, I upgraded all of my VHS Disney films to either DVD or eventually when they came out, the Blu-rays. And now after watching the Aristocats many, many years later, it's a good film. Not the best, but still pretty damn good. The film is based on the book of the same name by Tom Rowe and Tom McGowan, which actually was originally going to be put forward as two smaller shows made by Disney. The scripts were written by the original authors, but eventually along the line somewhere, Walt Disney decided he wanted to turn it into a full-fledged animated classic. And like I said in the last one, The Jungle Book was the last film he worked on, and The Aristocats was the last film he greenlit. Big up to Walt. And for this particular film, Walt Disney put Ken Anderson on the case. And for Walt Disney, it was a good way to go because The Aristocats was not only a critical success, but a commercial success, something that the company really needed. Anyway, ramble, let's get into what the film's about. So The Aristocats is set in 1910 in France, 60 years before this film's release. And we're quickly introduced to Duchess the cat and her 3 kittens, who are all looked after by a very wealthy, retired opera singer and her butler Edgar. Anyway, that retired opera singer, she's sort of on her last legs and she ends up writing a will, and it's believed that she's going to leave everything to her cats. Edgar ain't having none of this. And boom, there's your villain. He starts off his cunning plan by slipping the cats a few dodgy pills, which sort of knocks them out so he can take them to the middle of the countryside and abandon them. And there you go, 1960s Disney magic in full swing. And well, don't you feel like we've been here before? The Aristocats is another destination movie. We have just done The Jungle Book, and before that we did 101 Dalmatians. 3 destination movies all back to back. But just like those movies, is the characters that the cats meet on the way and all of the experiences they have that really make the movie. You've got about 10 minutes of storyline at the beginning, 10 minutes of storyline at the end, and that big chunk of 80% right in the middle is all destination for them trying to get from here to here. It's not a bad thing, it's just a very, very recycled idea, and well, it definitely works in this instance. Now, one of those characters they do meet on the way is Thomas O'Malley. Now, if Thomas O'Malley sounds quite familiar to you, that's because Disney did love to reuse his voice actors. He was voiced by the then famous jazz musician Phil Harris. And not only did he voice Thomas O'Malley, he also voiced Baloo the Bear and Little John from Robin Hood, which we'll be talking about next time. If we're going to go off topic a little bit here, one of the interesting, more obscure facts about this is when they tried to reprise his role for, playing Baloo the Bear again in Tailspin, when they got him in because he was, quite old, he couldn't redo his old voice. So they had to get a voice actor in to actually imitate his own voice, if that makes sense. But like I said, this is typical classic old school Disney, because Sterling Price, who voices the mouse in this movie, also voices Car from The Jungle Book, the Cheshire Cat, and of course, Winnie the Pooh. And Eva Gaber, the voice of Duchess the cat in this movie, also voices Miss Bianca from The Rescuers and The Rescuers Down Under. So look, anyway, back to the story. The group of cats are making their way back, they do a bit of hitchhiking on an old milk car and get chased away by the driver. All of this is really just show these posh Duchess and her 3 kittens what life is like outside of the comfort zone, and to sort of bring a little bit of a connection between Thomas O'Malley and Duchess. There's a part where they almost get hit by a train, one of the kittens almost drowns, and Thomas O'Malley has to jump in and save the day, almost drowning himself, which obviously brings us into the classic characters of those two female geese. Another couple of awesome characters. Eventually they meet up with Thomas O'Malley's friends when they're scouring the rooftops of Paris, and you get that famous song of, everybody wants to be a cat. It's a really good upbeat part of the movie which sort of breaks it down a little bit. The cats obviously after this continue their journey after literally smashing up a house with the power of jazz music. And the story obviously gets to this part where Thomas O'Malley and Duchess sort of try and make a little bit of a connection, and he tries to convince her to eventually not go back to a life of luxury and live with him as a family, and he even puts himself forward as the father figure for the 3 kittens. Duchess says no because she feels bad for her owner, who is obviously very upset about her missing pets. And well, that's it. No more's mentioned. They just continue. As they arrive at the house, Roford is looking out of the window, Roford's the mouse from the movie, and tries to warn them away before they come in and finally part ways with Thomas O'Malley. Why? Because inside you've got Edgar the butler who's ready to take him again. They obviously don't get the message in time, they go indoors, the cats get kidnapped again, they end up getting chucked in a box with the intention to send them to Timbuktu. Roford the mouse, just in the nick of time, gets a message to go get Thomas O'Malley back. Thomas O'Malley tells the mouse to go and tell the street cats, the musician cats from earlier on, to come and save the day, which is obviously very scary for a mouse. But he does it, they come along, there's a big obvious Disney hoo-ha smash up, and although obviously Edgar was doing a bad thing, there's an unnerving end to this story that, if you think about it, is quite horrible. Edgar, obviously the bad guy, was going to be putting those cats in a bag, in a case, and whacking it over to Timbuktu. But during the big scuffle, a horse kicks Edgar. Edgar pretty much obviously passes out, gets put into this case, and now that goes over to Timbuktu. But who was it going to? Friend of Edgar's? A family member of Edgar's? So what are they going to be seeing when they open it up? A dead Edgar. Well, you brought it upon yourself. Anyway, I don't think we were supposed to be thinking about that bit quite as much. As you would expect, the movie ends on a massive high with Thomas O'Malley joining the family instead of them moving out on the streets with him, and he's welcomed with open arms by that retired opera singer. Well, everyone's happy. And you even see her finishing off her will, saying, I wonder where Edgar went. I was going to give him some money. Oh well, never mind, he's gone. So, he was going to be added into the will all along. And there you have it, Disney's animated classic, The Aristocats. I think it's pretty obvious, I'm a big fan of the movie. I wasn't when I was a kid, mainly because I got it in those teenage years, where Disney isn't cool anymore. But no, growing up now with my Blu-ray of it, I think it's a really good film. It's probably on par with something like, for me, the original Rescuers movie. But anyway, that's enough about the movie. Let's look at the games. So you want Aristocat games, do you? Well, other than the forgettable question and answer games on the Blu-ray, you've basically come to the wrong place. Sadly, there is nothing concrete here, other than a few flash animations. But hey, if you get desperate, I suppose you could play the board game? Okay, let's get started. Marie's Great Diamond Chase. Now this has got to be the girliest title screen ever. Marie is at a gallery in Paris, full of gorgeous jewellery. A selection of the world's most beautiful jewels is on display. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, hundreds of the world's most precious stones. Suddenly the lights go out and everything is pitch dark. What on earth is going on? When the lights come back on, all of the jewels have disappeared. What a disaster! Help Marie find the missing jewels. Jeez, that's scary. Marie must have been terrified. Then again, maybe not. A short animated sequence of the stupidly happy kitten in a hot air balloon is seen going to a modernly drawn Paris, and we start the game. Okay, bashing the game aside, it's for kids. It's probably not that bad, really, and to be fair, like a lot of the Flash games I've mentioned on this list, generally just looks quite well made, all things considering. Still, it has nothing to do with this movie. The music loops every 10 seconds, and well, they literally could have put anyone in this game. Anyway, the game is completable in about 5 minutes, and it gets old in about 30 seconds. So you find Marie dodging dogs, flying to London and then New York. The thing that really keeps you going is that unnerving and potentially life-threatening scary end to this game. Who was crazy enough to steal the world's most beautiful jewels under everyone's noses? And during opening time? And why did they scatter them so obscurely around the world? A super criminal mastermind, perhaps? Either way, I was excited to find out. After traversing the rooftops of New York, I found that final large gem. This is it, the moment we've been waiting for. Who was this mastermind behind this great caper? Congratulations, well done. Marie has successfully collected all of the jewels and returned them to the show. And that's it. The game then just loops over and over and over, with this little kitten's only objective as being the one that has to return all of those stolen jewels from this cunning, mysterious thief with no identity. Will we ever find out who he or she is? Or will it remain a mystery for all eternity? We may never know. Or care. Anyway, moving on. This was probably the best game out of the two, actually, because next up you have Marie's Jewel Journey. Another game featuring this cat and her obsession with jewels. And sadly, this is just a poor man's Sega Swell. And honestly, that's something you never want to be compared to. Actually, Sega Swell ain't that bad. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my video on the Aristocats. If you want to check out the last video or the next video, click the links that you see here. If you want to come and support the show, come and check me out on Patreon. Be sure to rate, favourite, comment and subscribe. But for now, that's it from me. This is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.